Welcome to the Phil Steele Plus Tour for 2019. This is your first edition, and we got 5 selections for you. As you can see right there on the screen, last year, not only did I take you through a tour of Phil Steele Plus and show you the best way to use all this information that we have on the website, but the free plays that we gave out, 46 18-3, 72% winners. 5 free plays for you today, and I'll get to them as we go along and show you how to use the site. Now, I have poured hundreds of thousands of dollars into this site. This site is what I use to handicap the games, and I'm going to show you how to use it like a pro. Also let you know, for this week and this week only, we've opened the site. It's a pay site. You have to be a customer to get it. But this week, you can look around the site, use it all week long, use it for this weekend's games. I'm going to show you how to use the site, so let's get to it. Once again, 46 18-3, 72% winners for the selections here. Now, let's take a look at a couple of games that happened last night. One of the nice features that I find on here is the statistical leaders, and it shows you what they did. Now, you get that in the magazine for this year, but it does update it during the season here. But look at the individual player stats. Now, as we see with Tulane, I'm going to go back here at Tulane for a minute. Look at all this red early. They opened up last year 2-6. Down the stretch, they went 5-1. Why did they go 5-1? Let's look at the individual stats, and we see that Justin McMillan took over as the starting quarterback, and they played a lot better down the stretch once McMillan became starting quarterback. Well, last night, they played Florida International. Justin McMillan still at quarterback. They went 15-19 for 195. Tulane had a 545 to 267 yard edge and rolled over FIU 42-14. They are a much different team with Justin McMillan as the starting quarterback, and you can see that in the individual stats. These are available all season long right here, updated weekly. So if it was week 3, you'd see it updated in week 3. And also, one thing I want to point out, when you go to the homepage of philsteele.com, you can click on the YouTube channel here. And when you go to the YouTube channel, it shows you all of the videos that we have put up. And this will give you all of last year's. You can see how the site is used during the season when the stats are being updated. And you'll get some handicapping tips as well. So feel free to go in, check out any of these weeks. It was a big winning year for the Phil Steele Plus Tour. These are all available on YouTube. Just go right to the spot that I told you to. But that's how to use the individual stats section. Now let's take a look. I'm going to go over here and take a look at Utah last night, as Utah delivered a big win over BYU. And the one thing I want to point out here is we give you the history of every series. So here's Utah versus BYU the last 22 years. They're color-coded green and red. This is available for every single game for this year. As you can see, Utah had won 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 in a row, make it 9 in a row. These are covers out here. So they have covered 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 3 the last 10. You can see how the home team has done. If they won outright, it's marked win. If they lost outright, it's marked loss. The spread is in green and red, so you can see how the home team does. So you see last night, Utah won on the road. That was 1, 2, 3. The road team is actually 5-0-1 against the spread in the series. This tells you the yardage, gives you the yardage for each game. It shows you how they were played. So I find this invaluable when you're going and looking at history. You can click on any game. You know, take a look at Utah against Washington State, and you can see that Washington State has beaten Utah 4 straight years. And it's all right there at your fingertips. You can see the yards. You can see how many upsets have happened. So these teams have met 8 times, and there's been 4 outright upsets in the series. All this is at your fingertips for every game. And it's also available, by the way. I don't have any NFL plays for you today, but if you go to the NFL site like this, you can click on, let's pick a team. How about the New England Patriots? You can click on New England against Pittsburgh and see how they've done. You can see New England's had good success against Pittsburgh. Those are the wins and losses. Complete series history. Once again, how's the home team done? Look, a lot of upsets in this series. So all of this is right at your fingertips for every game, college and pro. You can go back and get the last 22 years' histories on those games. Also, the individual stat players will be updated each and every week. So all that's available on Phil Steele Plus. All right, let's get to a selection. All right, we're going to start off with a selection where we're going to take a look at the oh, by the way, when you go to the homepage, you're just going to come over here to FBS info for these and click on team page. And here we are. Now, this is, if you know your conferences, which is FBS, or you can get them alphabetical order, your choice. Here's your NFL team pages. Here's your FCS conferences. Now, I don't know the conferences by heart in the FCS, so I always go to the alphabetical for FCS. But let's go to Toledo against Kentucky and see why my streak game of the week is going to be Toledo plus 12 over Kentucky. I'm going to click on Toledo over here, but that's not really the team we're looking for. The team we're looking for is Kentucky, and I want to show you another part of the site and how to use it, and that is the last 40 years results. Now, it's really not the last 40 years results. It's more the last 43 years results because they come all the way down here. All the way down to 2018. So we'll update that. We'll change it to the last 43 years results. But, you know, sometimes if a team's a 35-point favorite and you say, boy, when's the last time they were a 35-point favorite? Here it is at your fingertips. You go all the way back to 1976. You have all of this on every team, complete 43-year history. But I'm going to hone in on this Kentucky-Toledo game, and I'm going to look at how Kentucky has done as a home favorite. So here they are at home against Middle Tennessee State, minus 16.5. They lost 34-23. And here's another neat feature of this part here. It shows you what the score was at half, which I find invaluable as well. So they led the game 24-10 at the half. So that's 0-1 as a home favorite. Vanderbilt, minus 11. They only win 14-7. The game was 7-7 at the half. That's 0-2. South Carolina, they was pick 'em, so they weren't favored. Here's a favorite, Murray State, 41.5. They only led 17-3 at the half, won 48-10. That's 0-3. Central Michigan, they were minus 17, 35-20. They only led 21-20 at the half. That's 0-4. Louisville, they were a dog, so that doesn't count. Ole Miss, they were minus 3.5, and they lost the game outright, 34-37. So that is 4. Or is that 5? 1, 2, 3. That's 5. Tennessee, they were minus 4. They only won 29-26. That is 6. Missouri, they were minus 9. They only won 40-34. That's 7 straight losses. Eastern Michigan, minus 14.5. They only won 24-20. That is 8 straight losses as a home favorite. Eastern Kentucky, minus 34.5, 27-16. 9 straight losses. They actually trailed that game at the half. Austin Peay, minus 43, 49-13. Lost that game against the spread. 10 straight losses against the spread. Here's their last time they won was Vanderbilt. Now, when you play on a streak, you can win many times, and you lose only once. I remember last year when I was doing the ESPN podcast with Doug Kazarian, he just kept playing Alabama first half. It won for him every week. There were weeks when he wondered, should he play it or not? And I kept giving him the philosophy, play on a streak. You win many times, you lose only once. So keep doing that with Kentucky. Play against Kentucky as a home favorite until they actually cover. They're given double digits. I thought the game should be about 7. I do think Kentucky probably wins the game, but I've only got them about a 7-point favorite in the game, and they're getting 12. So your first play for the Phil Steele Plus Tour is Toledo plus 12 over Kentucky because Kentucky has lost 10 in a row as a home favorite. So make sure you utilize this last 43 years matchups here. And down here, by the way, you get all the records. You can see Kentucky went 10-3 last year. It's been a long time since they've had 10 wins in a season. Back in the 70s was the last time. Here's their conference record. Look at the last time they had a winning conference record in the SEC. It was a long time. They haven't had one. So last year's 5-3 was pretty rare. All the stat information down here since 1990, you've got complete stats on the team. You can see if teams are trending upward, downward. This is all at your fingertips on every team, so make sure you use it when you're in Phil Steele Plus. Let's go to the Phil Steele Plus Inside the Press Box Yardage Game of the Week. I got a couple of PDFs here for you, which I want to show you. And this is, we're going to take a look at the Oklahoma State-Oregon State game. Now, this is what you get when you get my newsletter, Inside the Press Box. You get a complete write-up of every game. You get a forecast of every game. We fill in the stats during the season. All this is at your fingertips for every game on the Phil Steele Plus. or not Phil Steele Plus, I'm sorry, Inside the Press Box newsletter. Now we're going to hone in on this part of the letter here, and it's the best bet, which is Oregon State. We're going to take a look at the projected yards for the game. Oklahoma State's only going to have a 246 to 192 rush edge. It says Oregon State's going to have a 280 to 257 pass edge. For the game, Oklahoma State's going to have 503 yards, Oregon State 472. So that's only a 31-yard edge. Now, generally, the way I have found out, it's about 14 yards per point is scored. For every 14 yards a team gains, they score a point. That's on the average in the NCAA. So if you've got a 30-yard advantage, you should win the game by 2 points. The point forecast does call for Oregon State to come up 10 points short, but they're getting 2 full touchdowns here, and they're at home. Now, Oregon State was poor last year. Let's click on Oregon State and see what we got to look at there. But they've got practically everybody back, and this shows you their experience. Oregon State's the 7th most experienced team in the country. Oklahoma State's the 53rd most experienced team in the country. Practically everybody back from last year. Jamar Jefferson, Artavius Pearson. The thing about Oklahoma State this year, they lost their D-line from last season. Last year's rush D gave up 4.6 yards per carry. Look what they did down the stretch. Gave up 6.3, 7.5, 5.4, 6.3, and they lost the bulk of their defensive line. I think Jefferson and Pierce here, the two guys that ran the ball pretty well. Remember, they ran wild against Ohio State. They ran wild in numerous games, Arizona State, Washington State last year. I think this year's Oregon State team is about 10 to 14 points better than last year's squad. Luton is back at quarterback. So a much improved Oregon State at home. The yardage forecast of the week only has them losing by 30-some-odd yards in the game, and they're getting 14 points. So the Inside the Press Box yardage game of the week forecast is to take Oregon State plus 14. Now, last year, a lot of folks say, hey, you really can't handicap college football at the start of the season because you don't know anything about the teams. Well, that's all I do is study football. Last year, the first 7 weeks of the season on Inside the Press Box went 30, 16, and 1. How about that? Almost 66% winners. Now, what you can do is if you go to InsideThePressBox.com, enter the promo code STEELE19. That's STEELE 19. You can take $20 off any season package or $50 off this week's newsletter. So just go to, let me go to InsideThePressBox.com, show you what the site looks like. Here we are at InsideThePressBox.com. When you hit subscribe now, just go in. You could subscribe for the college. You could subscribe for the NFL, the college and NFL bundle. You could get weekly college. If you type in that code word STEELE, STEELE 19, you take 50% off any weekly package or $20 off any season package. It's really a great bet. I mean, college regular season, there's what, 14, 15 weeks this year? You'd be paying $129 for the entire year. You get the complete write-up on every single game that's out there in college football. You'll get the projected box score on every game for college football. It's all there on InsideThePressBox.com. The code word is STEELE19. And here's another good fact that you might not know. When you sign up for my weekly newsletter, Inside the Press Box, you get Phil Steele Plus for free. It's a $69 value free. You get it free when you sign up for Inside the Press Box. So become an Inside the Press Box subscriber today. Just go to InsideThePressBox.com for that. And once again, the code word STEELE19 to save yourself some bucks. Now let's go to the Phil Steele Workbook Game of the Week. And I've got a nice little PDF here for you. We're going to take a look at the game is going to be Louisiana Tech plus 20.5 over Texas. Now, I do have a workbook. As you notice in the magazine, we've got a few angles in there versus the spread. This workbook gives you all these angles, straight up ATS, which is pretty much what's in the magazine. How do they do as a favorite? By 3 or less, single digits, double digits, 20 or more. How do they do as an underdog in the same categories. How do they do in a conference as a home favorite, home dog, conference favorite, conference dog, versus ranked teams, versus top 10 teams. All this is there for every team the last 10 years in the workbook. And if you go to the store, by the way, just to show you what the workbook is, It's right here. It's 352 pages. This is on 20 or 60-pound paper, so you can fill in this during the year. You can update the home favorite, home dog, away dog, all that. Put your notes, what you thought on the game during the game, so you can see if you have a good pulse on the team. I do that all the time. I like to know if I'm right, if I've picked correctly in the Houston game 6 straight times and I've got W's out here all the way, then I know that I've got a real good pulse on the team. If you see that you've got 3 straight losses, maybe take a week or two to get a grasp on how that team's going. But we're going to take a look at the Louisiana against Texas matchup. I bring up Houston because Tom Herman's the head coach for Texas, and he does not do well as a favorite. We go back to here, 1-5-1 as a favorite, and 1-4-1 when he was 20 or more favorite in his last year, 2016 at Houston. Does great as a dog. He's one of the best underdog coaches out there. Look, a perfect 5-0, and I think he won all 5 of those games outright at Houston. So that's Houston. Now let's go see if that's carried over here to Texas. At Texas as a favorite, once again, 0-4 is a double-digit favorite, 1-2. He's gone 3-4 and 3-7 overall. So, and as a double-digit favorite, he is 1-6 against the spread at Texas. So, very poor favorite. They've got a big game next week against LSU, and this is only playing Louisiana Tech, and they haven't opened up the season strong either, losing their last 2 against Maryland. Now, if we look at Louisiana Tech, you want to see a team that's a good away dog, right? Well, if you look at Skip Holtz, Holtz went 2-0-1 as an oh, that's conference play. Let's go up here and get away dog. 4-1-1, 2-0 the last 2 years, 2-2, 1-1, 5-0. So Skip Holtz 6-1, 8-3, 10-3, 14-4-1 as an away dog over the last 5 years. They only have Grambling State on deck, so they have no look ahead. They're excited. They've got their quarterback back from last year in Jamar Smith. So using the workbook here, going over this, and looking at the angles, which I always do. Before I look at a game, you have to see how the team does in certain situations. As mentioned, when you take a look at a team like Texas, it's pretty simple. As a favorite, they are 6-11. As a dog, they were 8-2. So just like Northwestern last year. Did you know in Northwestern games last year, and I got this out of the workbook, actually you get it out of the magazine as well, during the regular season, the underdog in Northwestern games was 11-0-1. Northwestern did not lose as an underdog and did not cover as a favorite last year. There are just some coaches like Pat Fitzgerald, Tom Herman, that do great as an underdog and not so great as a favorite. So your workbook game of the week is to take Louisiana Tech plus 20.5 over Texas. And, you know, if you do sign up for the workbook, you can go to philsteele.com. It's $40.70. But what I'm going to do is if you do order that right now, you would type in the code word SAVE5PS. That's SAVE5PS. Let's go ahead and do that. SAVE5PS. And when you do that, apply the coupon, you take $5 off and get it for $35.70. And the beautiful thing about this, you not only get the college like the magazine is, but you also get 2 full pages on every NFL team. So every NFL team, now this you get on Phil Steele Plus, you get the results right here. But if you don't go get Phil Steele Plus, you'll want the workbook because you got the last 15 years right at your fingertips. Actually, not the last 15 years, the last 20 years, because here's the last 5 and then the 15 years prior. Once again, you got your annual leaders, your coaches' records and stats. Here's your schedule for the year. You can use it to fill it in, and against the spread for the NFL. And here's over-unders for the NFL as well. Last 10 years, you want to see how a team does over-under-wise. Is there a trend? We could see that the New England Patriots, when they play on grass, 18-24-2. So over/under to the under. As a home, when they're a home favorite, they tend to go over 43-33-1. All that's right there. This is their record as a home favorite. The last 10 years, 46-27-3. No wonder the Patriots lay a lot of points at home. In the last 2 years, look at that, 11-5 as a home favorite. So it's a pretty good thing to have at your fingertips all season long. The workbook. And once again, when you click on here, it's just $35.70. If you mention the code word SAVE5PS, that is SAVE5PS, will get you the workbook for that. So now let's go back and get another game here, and we're going to move on. So far we've given you 3 plays. The streak game of the week, Toledo plus 12. Inside the press box yardage game of the week, Oregon State plus 14. The Phil Steele workbook game of the week, Louisiana Tech plus 20.5. Now let's move on to the FCS. And I tell you what, if you're going to play FCS, and there's so much FCS out there, and last year a big part of the record on philsteele.com, this record, the 46, 18, and 3, 72%, was the FCS. The FCS did remarkably well, and we're going to take a look at 2 FCS games right now. We're going to start out, I'm going to put the visitor on the left here, so we're going to go down to the FCS, and we're going to take a team that is Indiana State, and we're going to take a look at Indiana State here and learn all about them. And here is Indiana State. They're playing up against Kansas. Les Miles, first game as a head coach. And here's what I like in this particular matchup. Now, first of all, Kansas is only laying 6. If you look at last year, the Kansas, while they lost to Nicholls State, which will have them well prepared. Generally, FBS foes overlook FCS foes. I don't think that's going to be the case here because Kansas lost to an FCS foe last year. Then they bounced back and beat Central Michigan 31-7. They beat Rutgers 55-14. And part of the reason, let's go to the individual player stats, Puka Williams at 125, 158. Here he had 252, 103 down the stretch. Kansas was playing decent football down the stretch last year. In fact, while they had a horrible year, they only won 3 games. Look at this. They went into Kansas State and only lost by 4, had a yardage edge, 347 to 301. Oklahoma, they only lost by 15 and were only outgained by 42 yards by the Sooners. And Texas, they only lost 2 by 7. And once again, outgained by 1 yard. And I think the Texas game, if you look at the box on that one, it was 24-17 was the final. Like I said, they only were outgained by 1 yard. So that's, and by the way, when the season's rolling, we'll have these box scores updated for you. So you can click on and you can see how the scoring was done. You can get the recap story of it. It's all up here on Phil Steele Plus. And like I said, this is what I use. I don't, when I handicap a game, I just go to Phil Steele Plus and take advantage of everything that I have up here. But let's break down this game. So Kansas was a decent team at the end of last year. They've got Puka Williams, a good running back. They've got a new attitude with Les Miles. And they're a team that should be much better. And I think they're thinking they're going to get the season off to a good start. Now, Indiana State 2 years ago, look at this. They lost every single game on the schedule. Now, last year, they did well. In fact, last year, they have 1, 2... their page is not up to, I think they had a new head coach last year, if I'm not mistaken. But we'll have that corrected by the time you read this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. They went 7-4 last year. Now, they had some games. Look, they played Louisville. They lost to Louisville by 24 points. Louisville was not a great team last year. They lost to Northern Iowa by 33. Their quarterback is back in Ryan Boyle. But look at this defense against the rush. I think Puka Williams is going to be able to exploit this. 5.2, 6.0, 4.5, 5.5 for Indiana State last year. They were a team that struggled, and they don't have a lot. They do have some players coming back on defense, but they still were very weak on the defensive side of the ball. So this is not a team that has a great tradition of winning in the FBS. They're a team that did lose to Louisville by 24. They lost to Tennessee, and Tennessee had a losing year this year too. They lost to them by 35 in that season. They lost to Minnesota by 30. It's a game where Kansas needs to win it. It's the first game at home for Les Miles. So add it all up. I like Kansas minus the 6 in that one, and my computer's got Kansas winning the game 35-22 with a 521 to 323 yard edge. Now, if you want just FCS for the Phil Steele Plus, you can get that, an FCS-only version right here. $29 will get you access. You'll only be able to access the FCS. You won't get the FBS. You won't get the NFL. But, hey, $29. A lot of people say, do you put out a FCS magazine? Well, here's your magazine right here. And let me show you, drill in a little deeper on this Indiana State page for you because it's really in-depth. When you look at Indiana State, we're going to click here. It's got the last year, it's got the year before, it's got 2016, 2015, 2014, 13, 12, 11. You know everything about this team. You're going color-coded green and red all the way back on Indiana State. There, their season started to go south. There, they had a winning season. And like I said, the team pages have been slowly getting updated. We'll get this 2019 page updated shortly for Indiana State. But add it all up, I like Kansas -6 over Indiana State. And I also have another promo code for you here. If you type in the code word winners when you go to sign up for the FCS only at $29, you take $5 off. $5 off if you type in the code word winners. Just go to the store right here and go to FCS Plus Access. Click for the $29 and order it now. And when you order it now, I probably just ordered it twice. No, I ordered it once. We're going to type in here winners, WINNERS. And when we do that, we're going to apply the coupon. $24. Get you FCS, all the information you want. There are so many games this weekend. FCS versus FBS. Vegas has lined the FCS versus FCS games. So if you're looking for an FCS magazine and you want all this information on every team, the last 10 years results, and as you know, if you want to look at Indiana State, we are actually updating this as well for them. Last year, here's your individual statistical leaders for them. Individual player stats. You can see how they did in each game, the quarterbacks, the running backs, and that's going to be updated this year as well. So you'll get an idea who's done what. Here's your, just like the FBS version, it's all laid out for you. So once again, the FCS only version, $24 if you type in the code word winners. And so that play is Kansas, -6 over Indiana State. My computer's got it 35-22. In your final game, we're going to take a look at Eastern Washington against Washington. Now, let's see, Washington is, let's go to the Pac-12. Might as well go to the Pac-12. Now, they are an inexperienced team defensively, only 2 returning starters this year. They also lose Jake Browning from last year. Myles Gaskin gone from last year. Eastern Washington last year started the season with Gabe Gubrod. And then all of a sudden, he went down to injury, so they had to go to Eric Barriers. And look what happened. They still had a really good year. Got all the way to playing North Dakota State and gave North Dakota State a good game in the championship. But they beat Maine, UC Davis, Nicholls State. They don't usually return a lot of starters, and this year they only have 5 starters back on offense, 5 on defense. But their quarterback is back, and that's always a big plus. So Eastern Washington can run the ball and throw the ball. They're an effective team. And, in fact, Eastern Washington comes in ranked number 4 in the FCS this year, and I got a feeling they could contend. You know, my computer's got this game at 39-27, and when you look at the line is 22.5. So you have an inexperienced Washington team, and let's drill in and look at that home favorite record for Washington last year. Washington, as a home favorite, was 1-5 last year. So, North Dakota State they did beat, but they were laying a lot of points. So 1-5 as a home favorite last year. An Eastern Washington team that is in the 3rd year of their head coach, Aaron Best. And they've got their quarterback back this year. Add it all up, I'm going to take Eastern Washington plus 22.5 over Washington. And once again, my computer's got this for 39-27. Now, Phil Steele Plus, if you want to sign up for it, this is how to use it. I just showed you. I tried to touch on everything that's on there. There's probably something I missed that I didn't get to. But if you do want to sign up to Phil Steele Plus, just go to the store. At the store, you can sign up for Inside the Press Box if you want. Once again, that code word is STEEL19. Phil Steele Plus, your code word is winners. It's $69 for the season. This takes you all the way through the Super Bowl, guys. You just click on the $69 for order now, view your cart. When you look at the cart, type in the code word winners. And when you type in the code word winners, apply your coupon, and it comes down to $64. And you'll be able to use this. So that comes out to, what, $5 a week? Less than $5 a week for the entire season. And yet you have all this access at your fingertips. This has been the Phil Steele Plus Tour. I do want to remind you, go to the YouTube section here on the front page of Phil Steele. Let me get there for a second. And right here, when you click on the YouTube, or right over here, YouTube channel, you can check out all of last year's ones. Make sure you subscribe. Make sure you click the bell, and you'll get these. These picks are free all season long. And what was that record again last year for these records? Oh, that's right, 46, 18, and 3, 72%. There's your first 5 plays. Make sure you subscribe. Ring the bell. I'll be back every Friday with the Phil Steele Plus Tour.